Imagine a neighbor, a coworker, a friend, someone you see every day. They're part of the fabric of your community, contributing, working, living alongside you. Then one day, they're just gone. No goodbye, no explanation. This is the reality unfolding across America right now. Filipinos are being removed from major American cities, quietly, surgically, without warning. These aren't the stories you'll see leading the nightly news. These aren't headlines splashed across front pages. These are whispers in community centers, worried phone calls between family members, empty chairs at the dinner table. It's a silent purge, happening in plain sight. The American dream for many Filipinos is turning into a quiet nightmare, orchestrated not with force but with paperwork, algorithms, and data. They are being targeted because they are seen as compliant, hardworking, and less likely to cause a scene. Their trust in the system is being weaponized against them. These removals are methodical, efficient, and hidden from public view, leaving families shattered and communities afraid. The question is no longer if this is happening, but where it will happen next. This isn't just about immigration policy, it's about people. It's about the lives being dismantled behind the curtain of bureaucracy. Which city might be next to target your community today? We pull back that curtain. Let's uncover the 10 U.S. cities silently deporting Filipino immigrants in 2025. You're watching Hidden Realms, where unseen patterns and global truths are exposed. If you want to stay ahead of what's really happening, hit subscribe now. We begin in Houston, a sprawling hub of industry and commerce where thousands of Filipinos have built their lives, often working in the city's massive logistics sector, or providing essential care in private clinics. But in 2025, a new kind of storm is hitting this community, and it has nothing to do with the weather. It's a storm of paperwork. Workplace raids, once a chaotic and public spectacle, have been replaced by something far more insidious: deep, forensic audits of employment records. Federal agents aren't kicking down doors, they're walking in with briefcases, demanding years of documentation. These audits are laser-focused, cross-referencing employment data with records from public aid programs. A family who received temporary food assistance, a parent who used a state-funded clinic for their child. This data is now being used to flag entire networks of workers. The official narrative is about cracking down on fraud, but the pattern is undeniable. Filipinos are disproportionately targeted. Why? An inside source told us it's because they're considered easier to process. Their cases are often less complex. Their paperwork trails cleaner, making them perfect for boosting removal statistics without lengthy legal battles. The result is a workforce vanishing overnight. A trusted caregiver at a nursing home simply doesn't show up for her shift. A reliable crew at a shipping warehouse is suddenly replaced. There are no public arrests, no dramatic confrontations, just a quiet, administrative removal. In Houston, your entire life, your right to stay, is being decided not by your contributions or your character, but by a minor discrepancy on a form you filled out years ago. Paperwork has become the weapon, and it's being wielded with surgical precision. In the diverse, family-oriented neighborhoods of Chicago, like Albany Park and Mayfair, a sense of community has always been a source of strength for Filipino families. But now, that very sense of community is being exploited. The places that were once safe havens, community clinics, local schools, and even food pantries, have become data collection points for federal agencies. Information provided in confidence to a nurse or a social worker is now being funneled into databases that flag individuals for removal. Hospitals have become traps. Imagine going to an emergency room for a broken arm and, in the process of providing your information, unknowingly triggering an alert in a federal system. This is the new reality. We've spoken to community organizers who describe families literally disappearing. One week, a family's at the local Filipino market. The next, their apartment is empty, their phone numbers disconnected. Their neighbors are left to wonder and to fear. The system is designed for silence and speed. Filipinos are seen as ideal statistics. They are often quiet, compliant, and deeply respectful of authority. This makes them prime targets for a system that values efficiency above all else. They are less likely to fight back, less likely to have extensive legal support, making their cases quick to process and close. Chicago's sanctuary city status offers little protection against this new data-driven approach. It bypasses local law enforcement and creates a direct pipeline from civic data to federal removal orders. In the Windy City, the system isn't just watching you, it's scoring you, and a single data point can be all it takes to erase you. Los Angeles, home to the largest Filipino community in the United States, and the iconic historic Filipino town, should be a bastion of safety. But the city's promise of being a sanctuary is proving to be an illusion. Beneath the surface of this vibrant metropolis, a quiet but relentless operation is underway. It starts with routine surveillance but with a new technological edge. License plate readers, CCTV footage from small businesses in areas like Koreatown and West Covina, and social media monitoring are creating detailed maps of community networks. When a single individual is flagged for a minor visa overstay or a paperwork issue, this digital dragnet can pull in their entire circle of family and friends for investigation. The result is a series of quiet, targeted detentions. A knock on the door at dawn, a car pulled over for a routine traffic stop that ends in an arrest. These aren't random, they are precision targeted. Once in the system, the promise of due process evaporates. The immigration courts in LA are under immense pressure to clear a massive backlog. We've learned from legal aids that Filipino cases are being fast-tracked. Requests for continuances are denied, evidence is hastily reviewed, and removal orders are issued at an alarming rate. It's an assembly line of deportation, and Filipinos, often perceived as having simpler cases, are being pushed to the front of the line. The very laws meant to provide sanctuary are being rendered ineffective by a federal strategy that is clinical, data-driven, and utterly ruthless. In the City of Angels, sanctuary is just a word. In New York City, the melting pot of the world, the Filipino community has long been a vital part of the city's heartbeat, especially in neighborhoods like Woodside, Queens. But now, the city's embrace feels like it's closing in. Federal officers are becoming bolder, making arrests not in pre-dawn raids but in public. We've received reports of plainclothes agents detaining individuals at community events, street fairs, and even outside churches. The arrests are swift, quiet, and designed to cause minimal public disturbance but maximum private terror. The justification is often a small, almost insignificant paperwork error from years prior. A box ticked incorrectly on a visa application, a slight discrepancy in reported income. These minor mistakes are now being weaponized, leaving countless hardworking Filipinos, many of whom believed their status was secure, suddenly vulnerable. But there's a larger, more chilling strategy at play. New York City is being used as a testing lab for new surveillance technologies, particularly facial recognition software. This technology is being deployed in high-traffic areas, cross-referencing images against visa databases to identify overstayers. Once the algorithm flags you, a case file is opened. There is no appeal, no second chance. Your face, captured for a fleeting moment by a camera you never noticed, has marked you for removal. The data-driven system is absolute. It doesn't account for context, for community ties, or for the life you've built. In the city that never sleeps, the government is watching, and for many Filipinos, that watch has become a countdown. San Francisco, a city defined by its progressive values and iconic skyline, is also a city in the grips of an affordability crisis. This economic pressure is now fueling a sinister pipeline for deportation, and the Filipino community, particularly in the south of Market District, is caught in the crossfire. For many, the path to removal begins not with a federal agent, but with a landlord. As gentrification drives property values sky high, landlords are using any pretext to evict long-term tenants to bring in higher rents. A complaint about having too many people in an apartment, a dispute over a late rent payment, these are no longer just housing issues. Eviction filings and even simple landlord complaints are now being systematically flagged and shared with federal immigration authorities. Filipinos, who often rely on shared or informal housing arrangements to survive in the expensive city, are exceptionally vulnerable. Their living situations, born of necessity, are being used as a pretext to investigate their immigration status. It's a cruel irony. The very strategies they use to hold on to their place in the city are being used to cast them out. This process is amplified by the data trails we all leave behind. The system knows where you live, who you live with, and how much you pay. For authorities looking for easy targets, the compliant, community-oriented nature of many Filipino families makes them simple to find and process. They are being pushed out by economic forces and then picked off by a data-driven immigration system that preys on the vulnerable. In San Francisco, the fight for housing has become a fight for survival, and many are losing on both fronts. Dallas, a boomtown in the heart of Texas, has relied heavily on a skilled Filipino workforce to staff its rapidly expanding healthcare sector. Nurses, caregivers, and medical technicians from the Philippines have been the backbone of countless hospitals and elder care facilities. Now that backbone is being systematically broken. The process is quiet and clinical, beginning with aggressive audits of the healthcare companies and staffing agencies that employ these workers. Investigators are scrutinizing contracts, looking for any hint of a violation. These audits often uncover minor discrepancies: a contract that doesn't perfectly match the work being performed, a certification that has a slight technical flaw. These are not cases of willful fraud, but they are being treated as such. The result is devastating. Filipino nurses and caregivers, many of whom have been in the United States for years and hold legal work visas, are seeing their credentials invalidated overnight. Their employers, facing massive fines, are forced to terminate them, which in turn voids their visas and triggers removal proceedings. The fear is palpable. Even legally documented workers are now terrified of routine background checks, fearing that some forgotten detail from their past could be misinterpreted and used against them. This isn't just about removing undocumented individuals, it's about erasing an entire segment of the workforce. Shift by shift, Dallas is losing the very people who care for its most vulnerable citizens. They are being thanked for their service with a deportation order, a quiet and brutal end to their American dream. San Diego's proximity to the border has always meant a heightened federal presence, but in 2025 the city has become a laboratory for the future of immigration enforcement, a so-called border test zone. And you know, the Filipino community, especially the many mixed-status households where some family members are citizens and others are not, is really bearing the brunt of these experiments. Families are being systematically torn apart. The process often begins with a failed visa petition, an application for a green card, or an extension that gets denied, sometimes just for a technical reason. In the past, such a denial might have been appealable, or maybe the individual could have stayed in the country while exploring other options. Not anymore. Today, a denial immediately flags the individual in a new, integrated tracking system. This system gives federal agents a complete picture of the family unit, who is a citizen, who has a visa, and who is now considered out of status. Agents are using this information to conduct precision removals, targeting only the non-citizen family members. They arrive with paperwork that splits families with bureaucratic cruelty. This is all made possible by new tracking tools being beta tested in the San Diego sector. Tools that consolidate data from the DMV, schools and social services, to give agents a real-time picture of a family's life. It's no longer about casting a wide net, it's about using a digital scalpel. The emotional devastation is immense. Children are being separated from parents, spouses from each other. In San Diego, the concept of the family unit is, well, being disregarded, and precision targeting is the new, cold norm. For generations, churches, synagogues, and mosques have been considered sacred, untouchable spaces, sanctuaries where even the law treads lightly. In Phoenix, Arizona, that sacred trust has been broken. In a shocking escalation, ICE raids are now happening in and around churches that have historically provided shelter and support to the immigrant community. New state-level laws, emboldened by a shifting federal stance, have been interpreted to allow law enforcement entry into these religious spaces if they have a warrant for an individual. The Filipino community, known for its strong Catholic faith, has been deeply affected. Churches that once ran food banks and offered legal clinics are now viewed with suspicion and fear. Parishioners are afraid to attend services, worried that their presence could be logged or that a raid could occur during Mass. The stories are heartbreaking. We've confirmed cases where individuals were detained in the church parking lot just moments after receiving communion. The majority of those being targeted and deported from Phoenix were not criminals. Many were under protections like deferred action or humanitarian relief. But with the political shifts of 2025, these protections have been systematically dismantled. A status that was once a shield has become a target. The very programs that encouraged people to come out of the shadows and register with the government are now being used as a roster for removals. In Phoenix, the last sanctuary has been breached, and for many Filipinos, the message is clear: there is nowhere left to hide. Faith may offer spiritual comfort, but it no longer offers physical safety. Miami's vibrant economy is inextricably linked to the sea, powered by a massive tourism and cruise line industry. For decades, this industry has been a major employer for Filipinos, who are renowned for their skill and hospitality as seafarers and service staff. But the tide has turned. The crackdown in Miami began where the money is, with the cruise lines. Federal agencies launched sweeping fraud audits into the job agencies and manning companies that recruit Filipino workers. These audits, ostensibly about corporate compliance, quickly morphed into a dragnet for the workers themselves. Investigators uncovered patterns of visa fraud and contract violations, often perpetrated by the agencies, not the workers. But it was the workers who paid the price. Mass detentions followed, with entire crews being held for questioning. Even legally documented workers with years of unblemished service were swept up in the investigation, their visas suspended pending review. The process created chaos and fear throughout the port. The Filipino community in Miami is highly visible and concentrated, making them an easy target. Their employment records are centralized, their movements are tracked by the maritime industry, and their presence is well documented. This made it simple for authorities to identify and process them in large numbers. The system targeted them not because they were a threat, but because they were convenient. In Miami, the very industry that brought thousands of Filipinos to America's shores has become the instrument of their removal. We end our journey in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. This isn't just another city on the list, this is the epicenter. This is where the policies are written, the strategies are developed, and the future of immigration law is engineered. And right here, under the nose of lawmakers and diplomats, one of the most methodical and quiet removals is taking place. Over 200 Filipinos, many of them long-term residents working for international organizations, embassies, and in specialty service sectors, have been deported in the last year alone. What is terrifying about the DC cases is that many of these individuals held statuses that were once considered ironclad. They had protected statuses tied to their employment, fully approved work visas, and even pending green card applications that were on a clear path to approval. But in 2025, the rules changed overnight. New internal memos and policy reinterpretations have allowed officials to reopen and re-adjudicate closed cases. A previously approved visa can now be flagged for a new, more stringent review and subsequently revoked. Washington, D.C. is the laboratory where Filipinos are being used as test subjects for these new legal maneuvers. If a strategy to revoke a certain type of visa works here without public outcry, it can then be deployed nationwide. Policy changes are turning law-abiding residents into deportable violators with the stroke of a pen. This isn't just enforcement, it's a calculated redesign of the immigration system itself, using a specific compliant demographic as the guinea pig. In DC, the threat isn't a raid, it's a memo. It's a quiet, bureaucratic decision that can erase a life in an instant. Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and 7 other cities. As we've seen, this isn't random. These aren't isolated events driven by rogue agents. This is a quiet wave, targeted, data-driven, and devastating. It's a national strategy, tested in one city and deployed in another, moving silently through communities that were taught to trust the system. And Filipinos, long viewed as a model minority, hardworking, family-oriented, and non-threatening, are now on the front line of these silent removals precisely because of those qualities. Their compliance is being used to ensure the efficiency of their own displacement. The question we are left with is a heavy one. Is this just the beginning? Is the quiet removal of one community a blueprint for others? Or is there a bigger, more hidden plan behind these quiet deportations, reshaping the very identity of America? The answers won't be found in official press releases, they will be found in the stories of those affected and in the courage of those who speak out. Tell us in the comments, your voice matters. What are you seeing in your city? Let us know where you're watching from. One of these cities might be closer than you think, and this pattern could already be emerging in your own community. Awareness is the first step toward action. If you haven't seen our previous video about the US visa loopholes triggering these removals, watch it now. It connects directly to this story and explains the legal mechanisms making this all possible. Stay alert, stay informed, subscribe to Hidden Realms, where the truth is never silent.